Put down your baby and pick up a beer. Dad Jokes is back with a brand new episode. I'm Jerry, joined here by Brandon, and you're listening to the podcast of two dads going through the journey of fatherhood, where you all get to sit back and listen to us talk about what's going on. And Brandon, typically we meet every week or two and have been doing this now for years, which is crazy to think about. But this has been one of the longer breaks between our episodes, and it pretty much is 100% my fault. So it's good to talk to you, Brandon.
For the first time ever, normally this is all me, but I actually took your advice this episode, and I did pick up a beer. I'm drinking Raspberry Creamsicle M43 by Old Nation, and it might be my new favorite beer. I love it.
That's I'm actually not drinking a beer. I'm feel like I can't drink beer anymore. I can only drink wine, Brandon, because me and
oh my
yep,
God.
Exactly. For everyone listening, me and my wife, we just got back from Europe. We spent 12 days in Italy. We'll kind of go into that, but we were gone for 12 days and have been back now for just a few. So that's why we didn't record for a while. Well, again, it was my fault. So this episode, we're going to kind of do kind of a catch-up, what's been going on, go over a few things, but no real hard topic like we usually do, because again, it's kind of my fault. But before we do all that, the show's called Dad Jokes for a reason, Brandon. Do you want to go with your dad joke first, or should I go first?
I can go because there's a chance I've done this before, but I don't think I have. And if I have, I'll have a backup ready. So you can tell me if I've done it before. My backup will be at the end. All right, Jerry. What do you call a magician who lost his magic?
I don't know.
Ian.
We've done something very similar, but I don't think it was that. Where basically it's
Okay.
the same type concept, but yeah, I don't think we've done that.
Yeah. Clearly, I like similar jokes.
Okay. I don't hate it, but Brandon, what else has been going on since we've last talked? I mean, I feel like definitely when you got little kids, especially the age that KJ is, a few weeks can be a long time for a lot of things to happen. So what's been going on?
So, I mean, you said we don't have a topic this week, but this is a topic. I mean, it's a life update after basically, I went and looked. The date on my notes for last episode was quite literally a month ago. So
Really?
I probably prepped for that. It's when you start. And I probably started maybe the day before we recorded, maybe the day we recorded. So it's been a minute. And at that point in time, my notes said Bryce is getting ready for school. So you're right. A lot has happened in the meantime.
I think that was 2 episodes ago. Not to ruin anything. Yeah, because our last episode we definitely talked about Bryce going to school. So I think you might have missed an episode in your notes. But it's definitely been a few while. It's been so long we don't remember where our notes are.
Yeah, maybe I didn't type it. But either way, what happened with school did not get talked about, and that is that we made a decision to pull Bryce from school. We talked to my parents. Have I talked to you about this?
I was gonna say I didn't even know that, because when I left, he was still going. He got sick, and so he was sick, so that he was out for a few days, and you were worried about reintroducing him back in. But that's the last place I had heard about what was going on.
So long story short, and really it's not gonna be short. It's gonna be long story long. Both myself and basically Bryce's support system, my parents, Kelsey, we were already a little apprehensive about him going back, but after a conversation with Kelsey and my parents, we kind of looked at his long-term plan. He was already the youngest kid in the class. He was 2 when we started, and I know kids go to daycare every day at earlier ages than that, so it's not that big of a deal. But we did have the backdrop of my parents who basically said, if you don't want him going, or if we don't feel like he's ready, and wink wink, we don't feel like he's ready, he doesn't have to go right now. And kind of what it came down to for us is when we would pick him up, it was already a struggle dropping him off, but when we picked him up, it didn't seem like it wasn't that he was happy to see us. it was just like he was happy to escape.
Relieved. He was more relieved. Yeah.
Like it was just tears of just like it seemed like he was just stressed, and the funny thing is, like, I feel like I had at the time like my first real big boy conversation with him, and since then we've had more, and I'm kind of getting to that. But I started almost like, I mean, you said like a therapist as an example. Like you might give a service level answer, and then they start asking questions that kind of dig into the root. And I know my kid, and so I know what to ask. I just hadn't done that a ton before. I do it to like figure out how his day went, but the root of the questions that I was asking is I kept getting back, and this is his words, not mine, but he'd say, "I'm sad," and he kept saying it over and over again. And like Bryce, when Bryce was like, "Hey Bryce, are you excited to go to school tomorrow?" And he'd give you like he's matching your energy. He say, "Yes." Bryce go to school, and Bryce is gonna cry. And
oh
it's
man!
Just, like it's conversations like that. But for me, the straw that broke the camel's back was I was sitting in his room, and we were having like a conversation. And I know this sounds crazy because the kid had just turned 3, like, but it felt like he opened up, and he basically told me he didn't want to go back to school. And so in the back of my mind, I got both my parents and Kelsey who don't want him to go back to school. But my mentality on it is we're going to be dealing with this regardless for a period of time, whether it's now, whether it's a year from now. So in my mind, does it make more sense to just go ahead and rip the Band-Aid off and let's go through this right now? But in talking to him, it seemed like that's not what he wanted. And I feel like he actually gave me his, and maybe I was looking for it, because it sucked dropping him off, and it sucked picking him up. And it didn't help that he got sick so quick coming back. And we got a baby at home that we got to worry about. But part of the reason that we even thought about it in the first place was to try to give my dad some relief, knowing that the new baby was coming. And based on KJ's behavior, they felt very comfortable in being able to handle both the kids. So that part of it wasn't an issue anymore. And my parents basically took that burden mentally off of us, so we could make a decision that we felt like was best for Bryce at the time. So if it was up to me, and I think after what ended up happening, I think it would have been a wrong decision by my part. I would have left him in there for probably 2 more weeks and then come back with the same decision and pulled him out. We did get some feedback from his teacher, and this is the tough part. Like we try to talk to the teacher in the moment, but it's so much chaos. You got other kids crying who don't want to be there. Like the teacher's busy. He's a half-day kid, so she still has the rest of the day and rest of the class she has to get back to. So it's really hard in those initial days to get feedback from the teacher. And the feedback we got, it probably would have been helpful to have more when we were going through it. But she said, "Hey, we see this all the time." So this is for all the parents listening as well. Obviously, they see it all the time. We're equipped to handle it. Just so you guys know, we respect whatever decision you make. Bryce is by far not the worst I've ever seen. He does have some separation anxiety, but I think that he would have come out of it fairly quickly. She said even in the day before we pulled him out, he had started to open up a little bit. She said it was still tough, but towards the end of the day, things got a little bit better. But ultimately, as far as we're concerned, our plan from the beginning has been to have him be one of the oldest kids in kindergarten. So he would still have an additional, right now, 2 more years of preschool minimum, maybe 3 before he even starts kindergarten. So 1 more year isn't going to do him any harm. And in our minds at the time, it could have potentially, and I'll get into it in a little bit, it could have potentially scarred him from school. So we didn't want to risk that, and we had the option, luckily enough, to not send him there. So that's what started off our time away from the podcast.
Yeah, that's big doings. You know, that's a hard topic for anyone. One, having your kid go to school, even if it goes well, is a gigantic thing, right? And then, you know, I think it's hard for it to go super well. You know, like perfect, because it is a big change, especially. You know, Bryce is the oldest kid, right? So he hasn't seen other kids in the family go to school, you know, and he doesn't go to daycare. So this is very, very new for him. So I'm sure we're going to be dealing with that next year with Peyton for sure. We deal with it a little bit, even like I said, at church when we like have her go into the classroom. It does not go super well. Now she tends to warm up, I think, but yeah, like you said, like she like we used to say, hey, you're gonna go to church and see your friends, and she'd be like, I don't want to see my friends. Like that's tough, you know. It's like so it's I don't know. I don't really have the answers for it, but I think kind of what the teacher said is probably a lot of kids go through similar types of things, and it's a Band-Aid you got to rip off at some point, but when is the right point? That's what you got to kind of decide as a parent. So,
and some of the other things that kind of have made me feel a little bit more at ease and at peace with the decision is, I mean, we're probably a month away from that decision being made, and we are just now getting over some of what I would call the ramifications of sending him to school when we did. Like, he has been extra clingy. He's never had an issue being dropped off with my parents. There have been some like tears that came in dropping him off, even at my parents' house place. So there were some like reciprocal effects of what I would say is us taking him to school. And every kid's different. Keep that in mind too. Like, not every kid has separation. My parents tell me this was not an issue with me. Like, every kid is a little bit different. But I had apprehension beforehand, just in the way you can tell certain things in how he acts when we try to force him into situations. So we went into it with an open mind, but that got close pretty quick. And seeing what he went through, and then when I had that conversation with him, it was tough. But I think it was the best decision overall, and it's in my mind led to some really, really cool things. Like and just to kind of tie a bow on this, long term, we're a part of an organization called Parents as Teachers. Kelsey is a part of the organization. In his same school that he would end up going to, they actually have a classroom all the time, so you can pop in and out of there daily. And so we can get him used to the school experience. My mom is going to be taking him there. The plan right now is at least once a week to kind of get him used to just going to school, going to the building. It's going to be with obviously somebody he knows. So if there are organizations around you guys who are listening, that may be an option as well if you want to introduce your kids to school, especially if you can get them in the school they're going to. But since then, man, he's been way clingier, like I said, has a separation anxiety, but it's also led to some of my favorite things that have happened about him. So every day, I'm saying it led to, this could just be the phase he's entering to.
Right.
But every day at drop-off, like when I drop him off at my parents' house, so we have our little ritual. I'll give him a hug, I'll give his brother a hug. Been doing that for a while. But lately, once I get in my truck, I normally roll my window down and a Disney soundtrack is playing, and I'll sing a song to him out of the window. Well, he yells back at me and says, "One more hug." And so I get out of my truck, and he hops off of the step, and he runs over to me, gives me one more hug, and he runs back up to my parents on the steps. That's something that's been super cool. Another thing is every day when I come home from work, and this didn't used to happen as much, but he's waiting at the window for me to get home.
That's cool.
And then as soon as I pull in the driveway, like the smile on his face is like it's crazy. And we talk to each other there. And then the last thing, and it might be my favorite, every day before bed he wants to snuggle. Like, he specifically asked me to snuggle in the bed and wants his time with Dad one-on-one. And those are the little things that, like, I kind of think about it, and I feel like I'm being somber in this in the beginning of this episode. But those are those things that, like, as a parent, you always try to be present, and when you do it in moments like that, it's like it's amazing, but it also sucks because you're like, you think about it and like, man, well, I'm not that far away from this kid. Like, he don't want to do that anymore.
Right.
Maybe that's 2 years, maybe that's 3 years, and that might be it. But it's just crazy to think about, like, these little humans that we help create and kind of mold their perspective, and they want you, they need you right now, and then it's like, they say cherish the moment, but it's like, how? Like, you try to, and it's like, I want to capture this moment and not leave it. So it's been a great month for our household, and I got more I'm gonna get into, but we're 15 minutes in. I've been I got people in the car about to start crying listening to me talk. So let's hear about your exciting news.
Well, I mean, it's been kind of a crazy time for us, and actually some stuff weirdly similar to what you're dealing with, but for different reasons. So obviously, Macy and I went on a trip to Italy, just the two of us. Something we kind of been planning for like a year now, a bucket list thing that we didn't think we were going to be able to do until much later in life because of a number of different things. The opportunity kind of presented itself, and we kind of planned this trip, and we were super excited. Italy's always been kind of on the top of my list, and not to go too much into this because it doesn't have a lot to do with parenting, but you know, it was something that.
Hear about this, Jerry.
Well, we planned it, and the thing is, like, anyone who knows me, I'm a big time planner, and I want stuff like right and tight. But I get anxiety about travel, and especially when you're traveling to a foreign country. I've never been to Europe or anywhere like that. I've been to like Canada, Mexico, and stuff, but not anywhere remotely like this. So it was a big deal. First thing I'll say is, anyone out there who maybe has apprehensions about traveling abroad or is thinking about doing it, I think you absolutely should. It was amazing, best trip of my life. Just an amazing time, an amazing culture. Italy's great in general. We got to see so much. It was a great trip. But you know, the negative of the trip, or the only thing that was really kind of weighing on us, was obviously that'd be far and away the longest we've ever been away from both girls, and that is hard, especially on mom. You know, and I know Macy was struggling with that a little bit, but I will tell you, there's a lot of good that come out of it. One, today's technology is great. We FaceTime the girls at least 2 times every day, a lot of times more. We've got text messages and pictures constantly. But the girls we dropped them off at my mom's house, and they spent a week at my mom's house. She's got a lot of things set up because she's got lots of grandkids. And then halfway through, they dropped them off to my in-laws, who watched them at our physical house. They stayed at our house and watched the girls for a week. And I'll tell you what, these girls, they probably wanted to go back to Italy because they were living the high life when we were gone, Brandon. I mean, I'm talking, they were going to the zoo. They were going to, like, my mom has like a little kiddie pool in the backyard, and the cousins came over. They did Build-A-Bear one day. They went to Bronner's, which is like a big giant Christmas store in Michigan, and got Christmas ornaments one day. They were doing arts and crafts and just a million different activities. Every day they were doing something. I was like, they went to the cider mill and got donuts. I mean, they were having the time of their life. So that was cool. They even built like a chain thing that they ripped off every night before they went to bed. That was how many days left until mom and dad came home. So that was kind of cool.
Cool.
And I think my mother-in-law wrapped a bunch of books every night. So every night they had to open a new book, and that was an exciting thing. So they were having a good time, and they would FaceTime us, and they were always happy. It wasn't like they were crying or like, "Where's mom?" or "Where's dad?" which makes you feel good, but also was like, man, you know, I think Avery probably didn't even notice we were gone. Peyton definitely did. But anyways, the trip was absolutely amazing. I loved it. It's also cool when you do travel, if you do have kids, because then when you come home, instead of being sad, you're also super excited. And it was super fun. We got home super late, so we didn't get to see the girls the night we got in, but we woke them up the next morning, and Peyton just wanted to hold both me and Macy, and she like wouldn't even talk, which is not like her at all. I think she was so overwhelmed. And then Avery just had a big smile on her face and was laughing and thought it was great. But yeah, you could definitely tell the last few days that we've been home. There's been a couple things. Peyton's been a little bit more clingy. So is Avery. I think somewhat to do with that. Like this morning, I got Peyton up before I went to work, and she's like, "Daddy, you don't go to work. You put pajamas back on." That's the first thing she said to me this morning, and I was like, "Oh," I didn't even tell her I was going to work. That's the first thing she said to me. And then, you know, she constantly, I can hear her like asking, like, "Oh, Daddy come with me or Mommy come with us?" You know, she's like, I think she's like conscious of us not being around. And then she's also acted out a little bit too, which I think is because of that. Like she's had like some moments where she just randomly like acts out on stuff that I don't think she normally would act out on. Like she didn't want to help pick up something the other day, and it was kind of funny at first. She kept telling us, she kept being like, "No, Mommy picks that up," and I'm like, "No, Peyton picks that up." And then, but she would not do it, so I had to like put her in timeout, and then it turned into a whole thing. But I think she's like trying to test some limits because of us being gone or acting out or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Brandon, like it's a big deal. Obviously, you're gonna travel away from your kids for that long. You got to have the support system, which we're so blessed to have. For us, it was a big deal because we know as the girls get older, pretty much every trip we're gonna take mostly is gonna be a family trip, right? And we want it to be a family trip. So we knew if we were ever gonna have a trip like this, it was either gonna have to be like now, or it wasn't gonna be for 10, 15, 20 years. And so that's part of the reason we decided to do it is because, you know, like I said, Avery probably didn't even notice we were gone. And Peyton, although she noticed, it wasn't a big deal. She wasn't overly emotional about it. Whereas I feel like in a year or so, I could see it being a big deal, us not being there and her reacting kind of it. And then, yeah, exactly. You got to know your kids too. So like for us, it actually worked out well because it was like, okay, if we're ever gonna do it, now's the time. And I'm really, really glad we did. It was great. The other thing too is you got to know. We've talked about this in the podcast before, Brandon, but you got to know your family dynamic, and you got to know your spouse and kind of your setup. And we work a lot of hours. My wife works, you know, a decent amount of hours, and then with everything we got going on with the kids and stuff, sometimes it's hard for us to get us time. And so one of the ways we're able to do that is sometimes like a trip or doing something. And so this is a way for us to kind of have some time for us, because it is harder for us to do that during the week, especially since our parents watch the kids during the day. We often feel very guilty about asking them to watch the kids at night for like a date night or something. We just don't do it. So we don't really have anyone to do that. So it's really hard for us to get like a date night or get away. So for us, it was also about that. It happened to be over our anniversary too, which was nice. And if anyone needs advice or wants to pick our brain about Italy, please message me. I'd be more than happy to share with you everything we did or tips or tricks or where to go or what to eat, all that kind of stuff. I can do that, but I won't get into that on here. But that was a big thing, Brandon. The trip was amazing. Coming back, I'll go over some stuff after. I'm sure you kind of go over some more, but it was great, you know, coming back and then seeing the girls. That makes, like I said, it makes it great because you had a great trip, but then you're still excited to come home and you're excited to see them. And it's weird too. It's only 12 days we were gone, but it seems like they got bigger, you know. It seems like they you know, like Avery seems like she has more hair, and it just seems older, and even Peyton seems older, you know. But I think, you know, sometimes it's just being away. So very, very cool to see how they are when we got back, you know. But it was also awesome because we could talk to them every day.
Did you notice anything when you got back about their dynamic changing potentially at all?
So their dynamic is kind of ever evolving, and you'll see this with KJ and Bryce. They're very much siblings. They love each other, but now they're at the point where, you know, they love each other, but Peyton loves Avery as long as Avery's doing something that doesn't annoy Peyton. And Avery has zero consciousnny of what annoys Peyton and what doesn't. And so she just doesn't, she's mad if Peyton's getting mad at her or taking something away from her, because Avery's still at that age where everything's hers. And there's no mine, yours, or anything. It's just, she's going to do what she wants to do. And Peyton kind of has some boundaries and understands, like, you know, this is mine, this is someone else's, or this is my turn. And when Avery's not following any of that because she's not old enough to know, that's when you start to get issues. But they also like play together every day, and they're super cute. And Peyton wants to take care of Avery all the time, which is really nice. This morning I got him up, and Peyton goes, "Daddy, can I have a yogi?" Which is, you know, a yogurt. And I'm like, "Yes, you can have a yogurt." And so I get her one. And it's like a Go-Gurt. She's eating it. And all of a sudden she looks at Avery and she goes, "Sissy, you want a yogurt?" She goes, "No, you can't have a yogurt. What would you like, Sissy? I'll get what you want." And it's like she's like having a conversation. And Avery doesn't know anything that's going on. She's just walking around like ignoring her. But, you know, she's trying to have a full-blown conversation. She's like, "Do you want apple? Do you want a banana?" She's like asking her all these questions. And and Avery's just like yelling because she wants something. She doesn't care what it is. But it's cute. It's their dynamic is definitely fun to watch. And as Avery starts to get older and older, I think it's going to get more and more fun. Probably more challenging, but more fun too.
Yeah, that's something that in the past few weeks I've noticed a ton. Bryce is feeling more responsible for KJ, and I mean he's one of the first things he thinks about when he wakes up. He's going over there talking to him. He's just gotten better with him overall. I don't have to really be worried about him. Like, he understands what he can and can't do. For a while in the beginning, Bryce was always a loving big brother and interested in KJ, but you'd have to worry about him trying to pull his finger off.
Right.
Or like,
he didn't know boundaries.
Yeah,
he didn't understand the boundaries.
I feel like those have been well established now, and it's just fun to watch him interact with them. And I really can't wait for KJ to start walking and get a little older, because part of me thinks that
right, be careful, Brandon. Be careful, Brandon. Two walking, I thought the same thing, dude. It is tiring. Just wait. You wait. When they both are running around.
Your girls came into work earlier, and it was fun. I just saw
it's fun.
Your wife posted of them dancing together. It was the cutest thing I'd ever seen. So
Yeah.
there are definitely good signs to it, or good signs
There
to
is.
it too. But part of the reason is, like, I think KJ is going to be able to get with Bryce fairly soon. And I know a couple year difference is not insignificant until you get really into like mid high school, but KJ's tracking to be bigger than Bryce.